This is the Truth Frequency Radio Network. We are TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Everyone, and welcome to Strange World, where the truth is often stranger than fiction. I'm your host, Mark Sargent, the creator of Flat Earth Clues, which propose that all of us are living inside a Truman Show enclosed structure thousands of miles wide. My wingman for the show, once again, is Jonathan out of Jersey. How's it going, man?
How's it going?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Here we are, once again. And this time we're not talking fireworks. We're talking conspiracy. So what we're going to really talk about here is something that's been on my mind for a while, and it's kind of a preparedness thing. And so what the thought that kind of occurred to me, it's like, when it comes to conspiracy people, you and me and just about probably everybody listening, is that everybody has their own idea about, the end of the world scenario. What's going to happen? Everybody's got some sort of, pre-made deal going on in their head. But if you took 100, conspiracy guys off the street, which may or may not be a good thing. If you took those guys and asked them each of this, they'd probably come out, you'd get this weird consensus. It'd be all over the place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down, the top 10 scenarios, and just as a point of reference, we're not going to dig into them too much, and then we're gonna see if we can find a common thread between all of them. Now, none of these are ranked, so it's not order of importance. It's just the 10 that John and I came up with. So you ready?
Go ahead.
Okay. Number 1 would be probably World War III, some sort of knockdown, drag-out scenario between, one of the three major powers right now being China and Russia and America.
It's the new Cold War.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Number 2 would be some sort of severe climate change, something like the movie, if anyone's ever seen it, The Day After Tomorrow with Dennis Quaid.
Okay. Let me guess the third one before you say it. Sharknado.
Sharknado. Is it up on the board? No. Sharknado's not good enough to make the top 10, but that's okay. Thanks for trying on that one.
Sorry, I'm just waking up. Go ahead.
That's okay. Number 3 would be a zombie type apocalypse. One of my personal favorites. Again, if this was ranked, that would be my personal favorite. Everyone would love to see a zombie apocalypse. I forgot that one. There we go. So number 4 would be some sort of major virus, like something out of the movie Contagion.
Wait a minute. Back up a minute, because Contagion and zombie apocalypse kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, they do, but they're really different, because zombie apocalypse is like an aggressive virus where it spreads kind of by itself, like a World War Z scenario. Where Contagion, if you saw the movie with
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Exactly. When Gwyneth Paltrow dies in the first 30 minutes of the movie, spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen it, everyone's just kind of locked in their house and they're afraid to go out because of the disease that's out there.
Let me just say this, though. On the zombie apocalypse, you have so many different variations. You have the World War Z super fast running type, right?
Oh yeah,
which is
yeah,
crazy. And then
yeah,
you have the slow moving, I guess, Walking Dead meets whatever.
yeah.
Those are usually
1980s zombies.
yeah, or even like 28 days. Then you have those. So as long as they're not amped up on some kind of adrenaline, I'm cool with that. They can take their sweet time catching up to me, and that's it.
Okay.
I don't like to run. Go ahead.
I agree. No, fast zombies worry me a great deal. The first time I saw Fast Zombies, which was with Ving Rhames' Dawn of the Dead Mall remake, when they sped them up, yeah, that worried me a great deal because
That blows my mind.
yeah, that changed the way I thought and think things. Anyway, number 5. A major religious event, and by that I mean something out of the Book of Revelations. The second coming, plagues, hailstones falling from the sky, 3 days of darkness, cats and dogs living together. That whole thing. It's everything that was discussed in Ghostbusters.
Okay.
Number 6, probably alien invasion. Because real or not. Now, from an enclosed world standpoint, for those of you who haven't followed my flat Earth clue stuff at all, I would think that an alien invasion would be staged. But staged or not, it's still going to be a really big deal, sort of an end of the world type scenario.
I always thought if they do come down, like after watching humans for so long, that they had a sense of humor, so that they play something really loud over speakers, kind of like Jaws or Hans Zimmerman as they're coming through the clouds.
Nice, sort of an apocalypse now. Choppers coming in.
Yeah, something really spooky.
That would be neat.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Straight on the heels of that, because it's been a few years since anyone's really brought that up, would be Planet X, or otherwise known as Nibiru. Now, in an enclosed system, that would also be staged, just like the alien invasion. In fact, you really want to mix the two up. You could mix Nibiru and alien invasion.
Now, are we talking, when you say Planet X, are we talking something that kind of like just grazes past the Earth enough to upset the balance and maybe shift the poles, or are we talking like Melancholia?
Yeah, Melancholia.
Okay.
For those who haven't seen the Kirsten Dunst award-winning movie, because it really didn't play much in the States, Melancholia really was about Planet X, Nibiru. Only in that one, Nibiru just smacked right into it.
Yeah, that was like
right into Earth. Spoiler alert: everybody dies. But yeah, that was an uplifting little flick.
And by the way, in that category, could we also place maybe like Deep Impact or or Armageddon? So it's like the whole Earth doesn't get destroyed, but it's in that category.
A good point. Yeah. Deep Impact, where you have a meteor, which would also be staged in an enclosed system. But yeah,
okay.
Deep Impact from 1998, I believe, with Téa Leoni. Great little flick, in my opinion. Let's see. Number 8, getting down to this list here, would be Red Dawn scenario, attack from within. So if you're thinking about the 80s Red Dawn or the 2000 whatever that was version, where the United States was infiltrated from within, and they cut the country in half basically by sending troops down the middle through Colorado, and then fought on two fronts.
Remind me to tell you about Operation Fortune Cookie sometime.
Okay. I will ask. Number 9. Hackers. Hackers bringing down the entire infrastructure, be it foreign hackers or domestic hackers. Either one could handle that probably pretty good. That's straight out of was it Live Free or Die Hard, where the fire sale reference, where they tried to bring down the entire thing. Timothy Oliphant played the villain in that one. And there's a movie for almost every single freaking one of these, with the exception of number 10. Super Volcano, Yosemite, which, I know was touched on in 2012. Don't get me started on that. But it wasn't just about the Yosemite super volcano, although a super volcano alone would do it.
Can I throw a number 11 in there? Just a bonus one?
I dare you. What do you got?
I was thinking, because everybody's charging up devices all the time and everybody has a computer and everybody has at least 4 or 5 big screen TVs, albeit they are better efficiency. Poor infrastructure and increasing demand for electricity, like natural cause.
Natural cause. You know what? I'm going to give it to you because it's good. It's good. Yeah. The actual eventual collapse of an infrastructure. Sure. Where the very much like City of Amber with Bill Murray, where the whole thing eventually is held together by duct tape and rust, and the thing just falls apart. So. Anyway, the point I was getting at here. So there's a common thread with all of these scenarios, and everybody's got their own favorite. But the common thread here is, can you guess what it is?
Oh man, you're asking me, or are you asking the audience?
I am. Well, unless we get another guy on the air with us.
All right, common thread.
Common thread between all these events. What is going to happen in all these events that is pretty much common for all of them?
I know for me, because you know the way I think, like a chess player.
Yeah.
I'm going to analyze the situation and try to figure out what degree the power is out. Let's say if it's just a power outage, that's one thing.
Yeah.
Right. But if my cell phone's out and car doesn't start, then I'm going to get worried, because then I'm going to realize, okay, it's an EMP blast. It's something bigger.
Got it.
Right. So I'm going to try to figure out, I guess, how to react to the situation quickly.
Got it. All right. I mean, you got it. And that was.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah. That was absolutely it.
Cool.
The power outage and the breaking down. With the power outage comes a lot of things. So
cool.
With that, we segue into the notes that I have ready for this, which was basically I drew up some stuff a while back about, most people, again, they've got their own idea. It's like, oh yeah, I'm ready for a zombie apocalypse. I'm ready for an alien invasion. I'm ready for a super volcano. I'm ready for 2012, all that stuff. But what they forget about is that the first thing that usually happens is the power grid goes down. And that is usually a very shocking thing to people. It's something they take completely for granted. They don't understand how much we rely on everything electronic. Not just the electronics in your hand. Obviously, if your smartphone goes down, you're going to freak out. But everything else, stoplights, your lights at home, your air conditioning, your water heater, everything along those lines. So I came up with a little step-by-step thing to sort of get you in the right mindset to sort of prepare you for this. Cool. And that's what I'm going to do. Excuse me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to paint you a picture of exactly what would happen. And again, you can fill in the blanks here. It's like, well, if you think it's a zombie thing, then it's a zombie thing. But you got to remember that the first part of this is usually going to be you not knowing anything and you in the dark. So this is really should be titled, even though initially I titled it Empty Shelves because of the looting that usually happens afterwards. It really should be titled When the Lights Go Out. And then, underneath that in parentheses, and they stay out.
And that's an important point too, because depending on time of the season of the year, time of day that it happens is going to make all the difference in how you react. So if it happens 11 o'clock at night when you're just going to sleep, by 8 o'clock the next morning, that's precious, valuable time you've lost.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And summer versus winter.
Sure.
That whole thing, and where everybody is. So anyway, I'm gonna paint a picture. I'm going to do the play-by-play, and John's going to jump in and do some color commentary here. And let's see, what we're going to do. So first, I'm just going to lay it out for you. I'm going to throw it in your face and give you a what-if scenario. So it's a workday afternoon, and the power has just gone out in your city. You have no cell phone, a quarter tank of gas, and you don't know how to contact your children. You haven't done a single push-up in the last 5 years. The radio in your car is only picking up emergency broadcasts. You have some difficult decisions to make in the next 48 hours that will change your life forever, and you're not ready. But don't worry, you're not alone. You're about to become an armchair survivalist. If you're like a lot of Americans who work behind a computer, this is your worst nightmare. What you only thought could happen in the movies is your new life. You're not nearly resourceful enough to go into the woods and live off the land. Forget all that nonsense about skinning your own rabbit and eating insects. You're going back to your home and be with your family. So make the most of it. There are plenty supplies within walking distance of your house that will help make your life bearable during the dark hours. You will learn to move without the mob, to band together with friends and neighbors if possible, and to keep everything you hold dear safe from the raging population that will develop into a destructive mob before your eyes. You can do this. You now have help. So, yeah. And I know it sounds a little ominous, but initially, the reason why, one of the big reasons why I did this was, and we'll get into the Katrina thing in a second, was basically the Katrina thing. Was that, for people that forget, that Hurricane Katrina that wiped out New Orleans more or less and put it underwater. The entire population had to evacuate. But out of the people that came back, 75% of those people still didn't set anything aside. It's like, look, it doesn't take much to just, I'm not endorsing, anything specific here. I'm just saying, look, get a case of water and some canned food. But, the Katrina people is like, I know the initial denial, which is, well, it'll never happen to me. The city's never going to get flooded. It hadn't been flooded before, a long, long time. But when you get evacuated and you come back, the first thing you shouldn't say is, "Oh yeah, well, it's not going to get flooded again." So, that shouldn't be your logic. So anyway,
I'm just thinking about the parameters that you laid out, like when that happens.
Yeah.
Because again, there's so many factors in how I would react based on the criteria of the way the power went out.
Yeah.
So okay, I'll let you go.
And we'll go more into it. And absolutely, you break it down and give me your thoughts on it, because I'd love to hear them. Because some actions are going to be, let's say not deliberate or not justified, but you're gonna think in ways that you wouldn't typically think, even in an illegal sense. I hate to use that word because what's legal in one sense is not necessarily in another. Agreed.
You're gonna do extreme things in one scenario over another, I should say.
Absolutely. The argument in that is, would you steal a loaf of bread to save your family? Type of thing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And we will absolutely cover that in some detail.
Okay.
So, to preface this, no matter what crisis develops, you are at best an armchair survivalist. The country you live in has so many layers of convenience, so many basic needs that are taken for granted, so many interconnected systems of daily living that we are dependent on. Describing them would take volumes. Suffice it to say that we are a land of luxurious, easy-to-use, hands-free, soft-touch product users. It has taken us, I'm talking about America here, 80 years to reach this wonderful pinnacle of runaway consumerism. And I'm going to coin that term one of these days. I may trademark it. Our internet is tied to our phones, which is tied to our banks. With even a moderate amount of money and some online shopping, we now never have to leave our homes to survive. By that I mean, those the grocery delivery stuff. Between Amazon and grocery stores, they'll deliver straight to your door. You don't have to leave if you got the money for it. So even though I grew up when the CD and computer were new, it is still a marvel to watch the new technological toys we're putting out every year. Our businesses are tied to elaborate wireless email and networking systems. Our cars have built-in DVD, GPS, push-button roadside service. Our boats have the ability to determine global location at all times. You can track your loved one's plane flight from gate to gate. Well, that's in debate with the enclosed GPS system. Packages can be rerouted in transit with a single text message. America has, for all intents and purposes, made it as easy as it's going to get. Congratulations, red, white, and blue. You've done what all other nations have aspired to achieve. You've created a society of out-of-shape, lazy, Madden-playing, pizza-ordering, latte-chugging, text-anywhere zombies who, at the first sign of trouble, will probably start chewing off their own arms for food. But maybe I'm being too critical. It could have been too harsh. Americans can deal with a crisis as long as it's small and the inconvenience is short. For example, several years ago in Boulder, Colorado, where I am now, I witnessed my first true power outage. The entire western United States grid had gone down. And by that, I mean for everything from like Colorado all the way to California. And our software office had gone dark. It was the middle of a summer afternoon. The sun was still beaming through most of the windows. Our office phones were dead, along with the internet. The cell phones were up for at least a little while. With the systems down, our office manager didn't know what to do with the employees, so we were given the rest of the afternoon off. I took a short walk down to the main drag where the highway ended and Main Street began. I watched as cars in a large intersection didn't know exactly what to do. The stoplights were out, and it was hard to tell who arrived at an intersection first. But if there's 6 lanes on every side, who really knows? You're not going to keep track. Some cars just went for it. Some stayed longer than they should. Tempers were raised and honking horns were frequent. Bank employees just stood outside in the parking lot. the grocery stores were forced to let people abandon their carts while they escorted them out of the store. The aisles were too dark to see where to put back the items. The city of, and Boulder's around 90,000 people, was at a standstill, and it stayed that way for the next 4 hours. In the first hour, the local police went to the busiest intersections within the city limits and directed traffic by hand. It'd probably been a while since any of them had used their whistles, but that's what they were using, just whistles and hand signals. It was pretty cool.
Wow.
I know. Okay, you can imagine what would happen in Manhattan if they had to drag everybody. But that's what they'd have to do. You got to get guys out there. It'd be like the old days.
Sure.
Store managers stood in front of their shops and turned people away. Some simply locked their doors. Everything went fairly smoothly. I did see a few people try to enter the grocery store closest to me, each time the manager explaining that the cash registers couldn't ring them up. Not that it mattered, because the back of the store was completely pitch black. Sometime later that afternoon, the lights came back on and everyone went back to what they were doing. In some ways, it felt like a large fire drill. Everyone calmly walked outside, milled around quietly, waited for it to be over. What makes this situation different from the nasty version, part of the top 10 list we just did, that starts looting and puts human life at risk? The difference is this. Most of the people in town didn't know why the power went out. It's the unknown that gives people pause. It's the mystery that forces people to stop and think about their decisions. Within an hour after the lights stopped working, people in their cars listening to radio stations still broadcasting found out the entire Western power grid was in the middle of a rolling blackout. There's still some debate on where exactly the breakdown occurred. The important thing was that the authorities didn't tell anyone exactly what happened or how long it would take to fix. It's good policy. Never give the public information they could use against you. Or to put it another way, and we'll use a schoolroom example here. If a teacher walks out of a classroom, the kids will have one impression. When that same teacher runs out of the classroom and then is seen getting into their car and driving away, the children then develop a very different attitude. That actually happened to me once, by the way, in school. And the class went berserk until the substitute showed up.
Oh, man.
I know. Compare the West Coast. Did you have something?
No. I'm just picturing that in my head.
Okay. Compare the West Coast grid failure or any East Coast blackout where you are with one where the reason is exposed immediately, like the 1994 Los Angeles earthquake. And I know that's 20 years ago, but you guys should really look it up. There's some wonderful footage on it out on YouTube, and it's great stuff.
And by the way, you should look up what happens when New York City blacks out. I mean, it's like,
oh yeah,
they say the pregnancy rate goes up 9 months later, but
oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. Isn't that weird? There's human instinct for you, absolutely.
But I mean, just the mapping of just getting out of New York at any given time, whether it's rush hour or even sometimes midnight on a Friday night.
Yeah.
One little breakdown in the Holland Tunnel or Lincoln Tunnels is forget it. So imagine all those streetlights out and everything else affected. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I that is not one of the fun situations I like to think about, as being in a major city like. Well, I know New York and Los Angeles are very, very different, but yeah, like a dense city. Like,
but even the subways too. If you've ever been on that subway, not only does it stink and stench and have high humidity, but if you're underground when it goes out, I mean, you better not be claustrophobic, because I would freak.
Oh yeah. Being stuck in a New York subway in July, during a power outage, after a heat wave, that'd be awesome.
A lot of people.
Yeah. So you gotta wonder, by the way, which would be worse, and that is, when if the power outage is during like a cold streak or a heat wave, because you get two very, very different scenarios. But
I just want to add to that, because you mentioned an interesting scenario of kids in a classroom, that are somewhat defensive, right, for grade school kids if they're younger. But proximity when everything happens is that's my biggest concern. Everybody, I think, assumes, I'm going to be at home when it happens.
Yeah. Everybody thinks that it's going to happen in the middle of the night. No different than The Road, which we won't get into because it's way too dark a movie, where it happened when they were, in the middle of the night.
Right.
You can get up, you can do your stuff. Everyone's at home. You know where the kids are. That whole thing.
Right.
So, 2.5 minutes till the break. What we'll do is we'll cover a little bit of the Northridge earthquake, and then we'll come back. So, watching CNN during the first few days after that particular California quake was very surreal for me. There was some stunning video footage, and definitely people look it up if you get a chance. Dark beauty as the water mains gushed from the streets, fire burning in the middle of the water through an ignited gas main. I sat in mild shock as I watched Korean gun shop owners standing on the roof of their store firing wildly at looters that came within 100 yards, the police nowhere to be found. And then there were the shopping mall videos. In any modern structure, there are some backup systems when the power goes out. Hospitals have generators that can keep a surgical team going for a short duration. Many buildings have some sort of emergency lighting, and a few select ones have cameras with battery backups, catching everything that people do when they think they aren't being watched. The North California earthquake proves something that we all know but rarely admit. For a great many of us, we do what we can get away with. Cameras caught the looting action as it unfolded. The earthquake hits, the lights go out. Within seconds, the inner hallways of the shopping malls erupted in chaos. People of all ages ransacked the shelves with greedy abandon. What surprised me wasn't that they did it, but the speed at which everything escalated. The looting was immediate, reckless, and illogical. Electronics, shirts, shoes, alcohol, everything stripped from the stores except the basic necessities. No one stole water or food. They stole cigarettes and alcohol. They didn't steal batteries. They stole cell phones. Why? Because the public was armed with very valuable information, and then their short-term instincts took over. They knew eventually that the city would get their power back on, the gas and the water mains would be repaired, and sooner or later, the police would be able to protect the stores, just not right now. The looting masses knew that this crisis was limited to their part of California, and it wouldn't last forever. We'll be back.
Your TFR Roundtable. Saturdays on Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back to Strange World. I'm Mark Sargent with my wingman / co-host, Jonathan.
Oh, I got a promotion.
I know. It's early though. Don't expect a bump in salary yet. So what we were talking,
paying me now.
So where we left off was we were talking about what happened during the 1994 Northridge earthquake in California. Started to give you a base of what happens in terms of the power outage. And what I basically was saying was literally as soon as the people in the mall realized the power was going out, they just rushed into the stores and just started sacking the place. It might as well have been sacking a town in England. It was just completely reckless. So, food, water, anything that might help in a real emergency was the furthest thing from their minds. The luxury items were the main target. Anything that was expensive or sellable was priority. These items were important because they knew the currency would still be valid when the lights came back on. The physical dollar would still have value because only part of California was affected. As long as the currency remains intact, there is a good chance that normal life will continue, provided, of course, that active food distribution lines exist. Compare that with the aftermath of Katrina, which showed us an even darker aspect of economic disruption. The earthquake was replaced, in this case, with flooding. And again, the power was out for an extended period of time. The city population realized that the hurricane and large amounts of standing water caused the blackout. And looting, again, began immediately. The same pattern started, but then evolved. At first, the looting, like in Los Angeles, started with luxury items. Electronics, shoes, cigarettes, liquor, and firearms were taken quickly. After a while, as the water didn't subside and there were no signs of the National Guard, the basic items became much more attractive. Food, water, batteries, the things that could keep you alive. These replaced everything else. Law enforcement officials were overwhelmed, and the water hindered their mobility. In Los Angeles, most of the streets were still drivable after the earthquake. In New Orleans, some of the streets had water higher than the roof of a truck. On foot, the police and the sheriff's departments became fatigued quickly. A number of them just gave up and deserted their posts, or worse, they joined in with the looters. Some of the authorities did have a plan. Before the winds had even died down, a local SWAT team had been dispatched to an outlying Sam's Club with orders to secure it for local forces, quote unquote. During a state of emergency, authorities, most people don't know this, have broad powers to take private supplies and buildings for their use. The store owner, Sam's Club, was contacted, and a list of all supplies taken was to be billed back to the New Orleans Police Department. This debt was eventually forgiven once the extent of the disaster was known. While some would condemn this law enforcement unit for what could potentially be branded as a selfish act, it hardly compares with a different division of the same police department, which was accused of breaking into a local Cadillac dealership and driving out of the city with 40 new cars while the city quickly filled up with water. True story, by the way. Yeah. At night, gangs roamed the dark streets, creating anarchy wherever they went. During the day, the masses emptied the stores of anything and everything. It was a limited exercise in chaos management. What would the general population do if left on their own without outside help for an undetermined period of time? The only thing that couldn't be measured was the same population without hope, and we'll get into this later. All the New Orleans residents who gathered outside the Superdome, if you guys want to look that up, had some faith and were counting on aid. There was a small army of reporters on the scene who had flown in on helicopters. The news teams and camera crews constantly reminded the people that help was eventually coming. This and the fact that the cameras were recording many sections of the city probably helped save it. What would happen to that same city if the reporters weren't there and the citizens knew that the National Guard wasn't coming? It's the one thing in America we haven't seen yet. What happens, which is why we did the top 10 list, what happens without help from the outside? Everything we have dealt with up until now has been contained, been compartmentalized. An earthquake happens in San Francisco. We send help. The Mississippi overflows and we send help. Like a giant immune system, we absorb and adjust. The question still remains, at what point are we stretched too thin, and can the American culture pull itself back from the brink? To be sure, not all of America is vulnerable. For sake of argument, we're going to leave out the whole remote farming communities because they are remarkably self-sufficient. If you live in one of these very small agricultural groups, you still might be able to get something out of this, such as the nearest large town closest to you, what they might be going through, what random groups of cars might be thinking as they drive up your long country road, or more importantly, what kind of essential goods you might be able to trade for and where the nearest place to get them could be. And I don't know how many farming communities actually listen to this show, but you never know.
You know what you're reminding me of, by the way? There was a movie I was looking up for you, and I can't remember the name of it. So I will find it, though.
Yeah.
But
who was in it?
That's the thing. It was made, I guess it was, one of these new type of, directors that just had a good, had cameras, had people to put it together. So it was kind of like done for YouTube or Vimeo.
Oh, okay.
It was about 30 minutes long, but it had production value. If they had a budget, they could have really done more with it.
Okay.
But I'll give you the spoiler because we're probably not going to be able to find it. It's never going to go mainstream.
Well, shoot, what do you got?
At the end of the scenario, like people just went crazy in this town to the point to where they did unthinkable things. And there was, like you said, there was no National Guard. There was no help. There was no support. Radios and TVs didn't work in that area. And the way it ended is there was one group of people that got out in a car, and all of a sudden the radio starts working as they got outside of the radius of this town. And the broadcast on the emergency broadcast system was like, The test is over, and the governor said, everything's okay. And all of a sudden they start looking at each other and they realize that they were all part of a specific test where it was like a localized, I think, EMP blast and a localized power outage just to see how people would react.
Wow.
Genuinely.
Wow. I'm going to definitely try to find it. But you know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of The Mist with Thomas Jane.
Oh yeah, okay.
The Mist, which is a Stephen King short story, which was about a people barricaded during like a military accident in a grocery store, and how they kind of fragmented off, and it became real cliquish, and everybody turned on each other. And yeah, at the end, only after they had done horrible things did they realize that it wasn't nationwide, and that the country was going to bounce back from it. And
that's something we can address if we go down the list. I guess we got a lot of time tonight to go over that. But again, that proximity thing, because what might happen here in America, it wouldn't happen in countries like India and stuff. Like, for example, an EMP blast there or a loss of an economy would have no bearing on a good 80 to 90% of the people of the world that are already poor. To them, there's no change in their lifestyle.
Yeah, the Carrington event would be actually the whatever it was, the sort of pseudo-natural EMP that happened in the 1800s here. If an EMP happened in other countries that weren't industrialized at all, what would it do to them?
Absolutely nothing. Yeah.
A couple bad cars wouldn't start. That'd be about it. So in a long-term environmental disaster, farms stand to lose more than others, depending on the situation. If the natural catastrophe in question were a comet, and by that I mean staged comet, it would suggest that crops would have a hard time growing. If that's the case, then livestock and perishables should be traded away as quickly as possible. A farm that has a lot of assets going for it, but most of them would be short term. If you happen to be in a survival cabin somewhere in the Northwest states such as Montana, Idaho, or the eastern part of Washington, then you already know this drill, and quite frankly, have probably spent a huge amount of time preparing for the worst. You are therefore excluded from everything I'm about to tell you now. Enjoy your powdered milk and cured meat sitting next to your propane or wood stove. I'm sure you're very content. The only other people I have to exclude is anyone currently living or about to move to Utah. And this is for those of you who don't know, practicing Mormons, and I'm not picking on them because, I actually agree with this, keep at least a year's supply of food and water on hand for each member of their family. It's a religious obligation. Sounds a bit strange, I know, but from a survival standpoint, I can't really argue the logic. With all this in mind, and I can see some of you cringing already. If America starts collapsing in on itself, Utah will most likely be the last one to go quietly into the night. And they're probably smiling if they're listening to this.
And Mark, you bring up a good point. I believe there was a statistic that said during the Great Depression, when we had 42 to 44% farmland, now we only have 2% that's privately owned. Everything else is, of course, corporate owned. But that the emergency food supply, I could have sworn, was either 8 or 3 days. In any case, it's down now to, I think, between 8 and 16 hours. Again, that's a fun statistic.
It's definitely less than a day. In fact,
for every man, woman, and child, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I'd probably break it down into minutes in some cases. It's like what? Yeah. We'll cover how bad it is.
Okay.
The rest of us live in a suburb, our own version of Elm Street. And I'll define your suburb for you. You have at least one strip mall close by, maybe a full-size indoor shopping center down the road. There are fast food chains within a mile or two, and then the usual restaurants like Chili's, Cracker Barrel, whatever. Outside that, you have bulk store like Sam's Club, Costco, or both. The neighborhoods interconnect endlessly, and gas stations are plenty. You know the names of some of your neighbors on the street, the name of your children's school, but probably couldn't say who the mayor was. True story. Most of your bills are paid online, and most of your direct purchases are done by credit card, which is, by the way, carrying a balance. You have car payments, a mortgage, and either have been divorced, separated, or seen a marriage counselor. You have a 20% chance of being a smoker, 67% chance of being at least 20 pounds overweight, and another 33% chance if it's 50 pounds or more. You could have some relatives in the state, some out of the state. You may have a pet, probably at least one dog, a few cats. If your yard is big enough, it's possible you plant a small garden when the weather is nice. You have a favorite restaurant or bar that you frequent. Your office is 10 to 20 miles away. You have a large cubicle or smaller office with no windows. You work hard, but think you're overpaid. This may or may not be your life. What do all these things that seem random and pointless have to do with a scenario? In a major crisis, all of these little details will affect your outcome in one way or another. These are the cards you have to play with, and the dealer now shows their hand. So the scenario, I'm just going to give you a what, this is the specific what if. I started with, a kind of a general to get your attention, but now here's the specific what if. All right. Mm-hmm. And if you're not in an office, if you're in a factory or, some other thing, you can just, replace stuff with this. So you're at your office. The power has just gone out. Cell phones work, but you're having a hard time getting an outside line. You leave your cube, walk down the aisle, look out the window. All the office buildings next to you, the power is out as well. If you're like many offices, upper management will assume that the outage is limited to a few blocks. They will wait to see if things come back on. The emergency lights in the bathrooms, as well as the plumbing, still work. Everyone at the office is bored because all the computers and phones are down. A few people try their laptops, but they can't get the internet, which basically makes them useless. Boredom turns to annoyance as an hour goes by. If it's before lunch, management may wait another hour. If it's after lunch, maybe they call it a day and send everybody home. Traffic is a little slower on the drive back because, then we're talking, staggered people, leaving. It's not like everyone's going to leave at once, probably. If it's just a power outage, if it's an earthquake and power outage, whole different thing. Rush hour will be staggered.
And the scope of the work, because even if your restaurant goes down, you can still clean and mop the floor and do physical tasks, so that not every job will go home.
Yeah, so people are going to leave, and it'll be a nice, actually ordered exodus. Okay. Rush hour will be staggered because of the outage. All stoplights are down. Single police units direct the cars through busy intersections. You get home. The lights are, of course, out, but the water is running. You have natural gas, but the power to run the furnace isn't on. You have a wood stove, but only a few logs. Your spouse isn't home yet. Maybe he or she went to get the kids. The dog looks at you for attention. Another hour goes by. Your family arrives. The kids go upstairs to their rooms, which are lit through the windows by the afternoon sun. They try to entertain themselves using portable electronics. If it wouldn't have been their first choice, but at least it's a distraction. 2 more hours go by, and you start to get curious. There are no portable radios in the house, so use the one in your car. Most of the stations aren't broadcasting. The few that you do find are playing an endless loop of the emergency broadcast system. The test. It's not the test signal anymore. Basically, it's.
You mean the one that never went off on 9/11, but growing up as a kid here in the tri-state area interrupted every one of my favorite cartoons and TV shows? That one.
Excellent point. Yeah, mine too. Yeah. Up in Seattle, they ran that broadcast system and drove me nuts. But because of that, I memorized it, and I use that when I test text. When I type stuff, that's the first thing that comes to my mind is to test the emergency broadcast system. The broadcast.
I imagine, by the way, some comedy scene where there's like a Cat 5 storm. Oh, wait a minute, we did have something like that, wasn't it? Called Sandy Hook.
That's good.
Where the guy's screaming, "Can I hit the button?" And the other guy's like, "Not yet." Like in the movies when they always wait for the ship to get close enough to blast them with a laser or something.
Yep.
Come on, are you ready? Not yet. So they never pressed the button on Sandy Hook either. I don't know what that was about. But
yeah, you got some good points, and that is, why doesn't the emergency broadcast system go off when it's supposed to? Yeah. It's completely linked. Most people don't know. They've completely redone it now to where it goes to your phones and your television and the internet. It all hits everything at the same time.
Ask any Verizon user in the tri-state area again. I don't know how it is out there, but at 4 a.m, you'll be alerted to some 87-year-old man who ran out of Depends and his medication, who's now stolen a car and driving down the highway. There's an amber alert or silver alert, whatever the color of his hair is. You'll be told about that at 4 a.m.
Nice. Good one.
Go ahead.
Good
Sorry.
It's okay. There are a few other people on the block doing the same thing, and that is listening to the emergency broadcast system. You tell your spouse, the kids over here, but they don't understand, nor do they probably care. The only thing they care about is their smartphones. The dog still wants attention. These are the cards you've been dealt. You have some decisions to make, and they can't wait. Don't worry. You'll be fine. Follow the steps. And we got time for some of the steps. Step 1, gain some confidence right now. And I know that sounds totally cliche and cheesy, but it's very, very true. Get yourself in the right frame of mind and do it quickly. Don't assume the worst because it'll eat you up. Try not to cover all your bases right away. Organize your priorities. As of right now, you don't have any appointments or meetings, and you don't have any flights to catch. Your primary concern is the comfort and safety of your immediate family. They are looking to you for support, for reassurance, for guidance. Show confidence at all times. This is the old military posture here still applies. For good or bad, be confident in your decisions. If the decision was wrong, then change direction, but do it with confidence. Nothing makes people lose faith quicker than watching their leader waver when important things are on the line. And they'll, anyone in the military, they'll tell you that right off the bat. It's like, we are going left. Yeah, it's like left, there's nowhere to go. We are going right. Confidence gives you strength. Confidence gives you the ability to do things without much question from others. Confidence allows you to walk the edge or cross the line if needed. If you're committed that it's a good decision and you can confidently explain why, there's a solid chance that others will follow you, back you, and defend your ideas in your absence. Okay. Step 2. I had to do that. Don't rush. In fact, I'm going to do these for the steps. In the long term, seconds aren't going to make that much of a difference. And I can't emphasize this more. Moving faster than normal gets the blood levels up and teases the adrenaline. It also helps induce panic, and with it, some bad decision making. Don't do it. Be brisk, but be calm. Keep the energy levels at a managed pace. Don't drag anyone anywhere. Speak to your family in low tones, but be serious. Don't yell. It doesn't help. If your children don't want to listen, try to explain what's going on, but do it logically. Just because I said so probably isn't going to fly. Not when it comes to power outages and zombies.
Not for nothing, I'm a very visual person, and as you're talking about this,
yeah,
depending on the movie that person now finds themselves in at that moment, meaning if they're in a Twilight Zone type setting,
yeah,
the guy's going to be like taking his time going through his shed and accidentally place his hand in a bear trap that he meant to disarm,
yeah,
kind of thing. So it kind of changes every.
Yeah.
Or God forbid, the red circle. You know about the red circle?
No.
Oh, I got to tell your audience this. If you ever see the red circle coming at you, run. That, in videos when they show somebody getting hurt, whether it's a train wreck or a car accident or a motorcycle thing,
yeah,
there's always this red ring or circle that always goes around the person that's going to get hurt in the video. So if you ever see the red ring coming at you, run.
Nice. Nice. Good one.
Sorry, man.
No. I totally get that one. That's good.
No. You're right. But haste makes waste. Sometimes we hurt ourselves and have self-inflicted damage. Just like running out. God forbid. Let's say you're getting the car ready and you're prepping. Like you're getting your family in the car.
Yeah.
And you're rushing and you're throwing stuff in the trunk and accidentally you still have your keys in your hand. And as you're throwing stuff in the trunk, you throw the keys in, slam it, and then realize, oh crap.
Oh yeah, I can't tell you how many times I stubbed my toe, I banged my hand on things.
Right.
I've shut, you shut the door and you realize you left stuff inside. There's so many things. Like, look, just don't freak out. Just keep, just do everything like at normal speed, more or less, and you'll be fine. Don't run.
Yeah, these are good points you're bringing up because a lot of people don't think like that, so that's good.
Well, thank you. Number 3, or step 3, should you stay or should you go? And that I know it's a complete ripoff from should I stay or should I go? From the Kinks, if I believe. It's a it was a great song too. It's an 80s song. Check it out. Should I stay or should I go? It's a difficult choice, and you may not have to make it. Is there somewhere you would rather be? Do you have family members that live within driving distance? And by that, I mean how far you can go, this is important, with the gas that's in your tank right now. If they aren't within range, you're not going. If you're thinking of a round trip and you don't think you'll make it back, you're still not going. The only exception here is that you have a neighbor who you're close with, someone you can borrow a vehicle from. That's a big F.
And you bring up, and by the way, this is a great point. What would it really take for anybody right now to have 2 or 3 gas cans in their house or garage or shed filled up? Yeah. Just keep some fuel stable, or seafoam is very good to get the water and any kind of moisture out of your gas. Yep. And just be ready. God forbid you have an eighth or a quarter of a tank and you're thinking, oh, I'll just get gas on the way to work tomorrow morning. What does it hurt to have 3 gallon, 3 gas
absolutely.
Cans?
And I was one of those guys that kept gas, but then, you realize they don't tell you that, because why would anyone keep it? That gas really doesn't keep very long. It's, I think, 6 months to a year tops. That's without an additive, maybe.
Well, we'll cycle it out. I mean, use it on regular occasions, cycle it out.
But the big tip that they try to tell people is like, look, don't let your gas tank get below half.
Yes.
That's just a great piece of advice. Don't don't sit there with an eighth of a tank in your garage, because you're not going anywhere. Something happens, that's it. You are done, and then you're that guy in that movie. Don't be that guy.
And for people that don't know this, empty gas cans are more volatile than filled ones.
I know this because of the vapor.
And I'll tell you a story with that. This is very important for depending on the region that you live in.
Okay.
My uncle lives in Vermont. He has a log cabin. He built himself. It's great, and it's a great survival place. It has propane. It has electric to DC conversion off batteries, off a gas generator, and all that. Anyway, he brought in a gas can in the dead of winter that was outside that he thought was empty. Mm-hmm. Well, what do you think happened? The place is warm inside. The vapor expanded.
Oh, no.
And what does it want to do? It wants to stay low to the ground. Well, it found its way to the pilot light of his stove, or the flame that was going. He was just near and the thing let out so much force it actually sent him up into the rafters. He survived, but
it was a metal gas can.
I don't. That's a good question. I don't know if it was metal or plastic, but I guess what I'm getting at is because it was so cold up there in Vermont, like I think it was like 20 below. Those vapors were, I guess, compressed, right? So now it's brought into a house that's 80, 90 degrees, and it expands rapidly.
Yeah.
So sometimes just that, people don't think there's a difference, but yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It's good. It's good. Like it. So do you stay or do you go? There's some breathing room here. If you have a pretty good idea that your tank will run dry within a few miles of your destination and you have no intention of coming back, then discuss the plan with your spouse and make the call. Keep in mind, your betrothed may want to go to his or her relative's house or have them come to you. This needs to be decided first thing. The window for these options gets closed fairly quickly in the grand scheme of things. Deciding in the first few hours will make the situation a lot easier on you. If you do decide to vacate your house, then there are a few things you need to take care of. Assume that you won't be coming back for a while. This means you should take everything that you might find useful. Leave a few lights on, so if the power comes back, there'll be light if needed. And contrary to what others may tell you, don't lock anything. The average house is designed to deter crime, not prevent it. If your door is locked and someone really wants to get in, we're talking, the end of the world scenario, they're just going to choose a window or sliding glass door, which is, most back doors have a lot of glass on them. I don't know what yours has.
We got to expand on that later, too, when we talk about true prepping.
Yeah. You're not prepping your house for when you go to Europe. When you're touring France, neighbors and friends back home don't usually ransack your home looking for supplies. When these groups eventually figure out that it's vacant, they're coming in, locked door or not. If it's unlocked and you do return, at least you won't come back to a broken glass and shattered deadbolts. And, it's a minor thing. You feel better about locking it, fine. Doesn't really matter. Think carefully of other family members who might be in driving distance. Will they be trying to get to you? Do you have close friends with no family in the area who might look you up? If you answered maybe to the question, then play it safe and leave a few simple notes. On the kitchen counter is good. If you want to give the neighbors a heads up, tape a quick note to the door, something with, where you went and who went with you. If you trust, people next to you. The names may seem unnecessary, but it's good to let people know who was in the group. So go already. Load up the family and pets. If the pets aren't that important, leave a back door open so they can come and go as they please. Believe me when I say this, animal survival instincts are honed a lot sharper than yours, old balding monkey. They also don't have a conscience to deal with. So good luck with your journey, and when you get there, read on. And with that...
Can I add one thing to that?
No, you can't.
Oh, go to music.
We're going to break, so you're going to have to add it when we come back.
All right. Good timing.
Thank you.
Real people, real radio. Wherever you are, make it TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back to Strange World. I'm your host, Mark Sargent, with my main man, Jonathan.
What's going on?
And hey, so just before the break, I had to cut you off because we went to break. So I think it was we were deciding, whether should I stay or should I go? Were you going to throw something in there, or do you want me to?
No, I always tell people to pack like they're going to Gilligan's Island for a 3-hour tour, and that way you'll have plenty of costume changes.
Oh, that's you have so much better references than I do, and I absorb a lot of media,
right.
And you get all the good stuff. That's good. I hate you for that one.
I'm always looking at the ironies of life, so these things are lodged in my head. Like, why would they do that?
Yeah, exactly. Gilligan's Island. For those of you who haven't followed the show, they packed way too many clothes, like they were on a Hollywood set. Really.
Yeah. By the way, my favorite line about that, there was a movie called Back to the Beach, and that Funicello.
I know this movie.
You know this movie?
Yeah, I do.
And so Gillian makes a cameo, and he's getting drunk at the tiki bar, and he says to this guy, he goes, "You see this coconut?" He goes, "I know a guy who could take two halves of these, some copper wire, and make a nuclear reactor, but he couldn't fix a 2-foot hole in a boat. Want to know about it?"
That's great.
I'm sorry.
No, it's totally cool. Totally cool. All right, so we're moving past the should I stay or should I go part, and that is, all right, either you went or you stayed. So we're moving on to step 4, taking stock. At this point, you've either decided to stay or have already arrived at your destination. See, you're making decisions already, and you haven't even thought once about eating people. Seriously, you're doing great. The next step is figuring out what you have, and in most cases, what you don't have but need. This is probably the most time-consuming part of the beginning, but it doesn't have to be full of anxiety. To make it easier, I've come up with a few easy-to-follow lists. These lists include a comprehensive set of 1, must-haves. Must-haves. 2, should-haves. And 3, why-nots, that you should be at least thinking about prior to this day of reckoning. Before we get to that, though, let's see if there's anyone close by that can help you in acquiring the items on your list. It may be time to make peace with the lady who consistently lets her lab take a big dump on your lawn, and that is one of your neighbors. So, to preface this, a survivalist in any suburban setting is a strange paradox. On one hand, standard Rambo-type doctrine preaches that the survivalist must be alone because there is no one that can be trusted. They should live a solitary life filled with religious discipline and sacrifice. They are a human fortress. They are a piece of metal. I stole that from Rocky IV, by the way. They are emotionally devoid of mercy and kindness. I appreciate that the true survivalist is committed to their trade, much like a serious method actor. However, you are not this person. I'm talking about people listening here. You are a social creature. After half a day of sitting home alone, you are climbing the drapes, looking for some interaction with the rest of the community. Then again, maybe you just play computer games all day long.
No, let me say something here. You bring up a good point that they never illustrate in any movies, and that's the passage of time.
Yeah.
Like when there's nothing going on. Because until something happens, and it's usually that you're following the narrative, the character, the main character, that all the action's happening around. I was thinking about this before when you were reading down the list. You notice that zombies are kind of like a peaceful bunch. Like they're unprovoked. They kind of like have their own social order, and they're not at each other.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So they're just like minding their own business and meandering. And then here come, the guys with the crossbows and the shotguns and all that. And they start, making hell for them.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, well, who's the majority? Who's the minority? How's this a democracy?
Yeah. And the downtime will really get to you. And that's some of the items on the list to try to kill the downtime, because people don't realize it's like when the power goes out. And again, for those of you who have not been in a power outage, time slows down.
And I didn't go ahead. No, I was saying I didn't want to be like make fun of this, but time is a factor that really people have no context of.
Yeah.
In those scenarios. Yeah. Because how long do you wait, or how long? What are you gauging it by? Yeah,
longer than how long you would wait for a text message. I guarantee it. It's people, especially nowadays with everything instant, super fast, they have no idea how time really gets warped in this situation. But
right.
But we will go into that somewhat.
Okay.
I appreciate. For you people who consider solitary confinement the ultimate torture, I will share a secret with you. The chances of you and your family living longer than the lone individual increases dramatically if you can get by with little help from your friends. I know that was a Beatles ripoff, but there is safety in numbers. You will find a better variety of skills with a group. A group has a collective mind, and set on a goal can come up with creative ways of accomplishing it. But there's a catch. You have to pick the right people. And after that, no one joins the club unless the entire group is in agreement. Trust is everything here. And this is not new for anyone who's a prepper out there. You guys know some of this stuff. The wrong people join the group, and it can fall apart. You question me? Just watch any 2 episodes of The Walking Dead, and you'll understand how much drama there is.
By the way, I'm a lone wolf. I'm not a team player. I don't play those games. The politics.
Yeah, I know. Me neither. The politics for me would only last so long, and then it ends badly.
Well, and because I think if you have certain skill sets, like I know how to build, I know how to do plumbing, carpentry, whatever.
Yeah.
I know alternative medicine. I know the value of baking soda and water.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying in that final scenario.
Yeah.
So the only thing that somebody would have more than me is maybe some medical skill if I get hurt.
Yeah.
That they could apply, or items I need to barter with. But outside of that, the politics is the worst part.
Yeah, it is, and it can get ugly in a hurry. And in
morale.
fact, that's what we're segueing into right now.
Oh, okay.
Because I asked a friend of mine, I asked a couple of people that I worked with. One in particular, I asked a woman. I said, I threw this scenario at her. And she was actually very enthusiastic enough that, I took notes on this. And we were basically comparing notes on what would happen in her neighborhood. Because, I'm more of the lone wolfy type of guy too. But she is like, oh, yeah, I need a group of 10 people. Right? I'm going, okay, let's see how this pans out. So we're gonna make up a thing, and it's going to be called the fictional neighborhood of Renaissance, Colorado.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I know. So the power goes out, and right away it looks like it could be a long time before it and order is restored. A single mother in her late 30s starts the chain. She only contacts people she can trust, and all of these people have a useful skill that can benefit the group. And this for people, because there are a lot of people that they have to be in a group. They just have to be. And it's like, fine, safety numbers, cool. I totally agree. So this, I'm pandering to you here. She looks up a contractor to improvise repairs when things break or are destroyed. She finds a doctor to treat minor wounds and assess major ones. She tracks down a good friend who is handy with firearms, because not everyone knows how to shoot. This is true. She contacts women who have a strong survival instinct. These are women who would fight to stay alive. No girly girls or useless blob men allowed. Right? This is, skirts and high heels is not gonna go over very well in this,
And by the way, the term "The Walking Dead." It's not about zombies. It's about those that don't even know that they're dead, and that would be the girly girls and the blob men.
Nice. I dig it.
Okay.
Everyone in this ensemble is motivated and willing to do what it takes to weather the storm. Everyone chosen has something to bring to the table. In this situation, everyone's got game. Right? They all meet at one house and decide the best place to hold up. They decide to pool their resources and take shifts sleeping. Most importantly, they form a pact and swear never to turn on each other, no matter how hungry or how tired. Without this pact, the group is vulnerable from within. There can be no secret stashes kept by anyone. To function as a single unit, everything has to be laid out on the table right now.
Wait, can I just interject here a minute?
You can interject anytime you want, man.
Do you know? And here's the bad thing about this. By bringing it up and having these rules, for those people that aren't sophisticated enough to think of these things, because you and I might think of these things because you've obviously outlined them.
Oh yeah.
You would plant the seed in somebody's head. It's like, wait a minute, secret stash. I hadn't even considered that.
Well, the thing is, though, secret stash is, it's a good idea. Yeah, you're right. What could you hide? But man, you'd have to be able to hide it really good. Plus, again, it's that trust thing. If you get found out, like let's say you have more energy levels, or you're not dropping weight as fast, or whatever it is, you get found out, well, then the group could turn on you. But yeah, you're right. Secret stash is it's the whole, what is that, the rule of the pirates.
Right.
Just bury something somewhere so I can go back, to it later. Any personal issues should be cleared up within 24 hours. This group, Renaissance, they agree on a total of 8 people. The group could function as well with even 12 if needed. If members are added and the social dynamics take a downward turn, then it needs to be changed but done fairly. They end up combining supplies from 2 houses that reside next to each other. They have battery-powered 2-way camping radios and use them frequently. At night, the groups are split evenly in case of an emergency. Things work better than they had hoped. One of them gets an older power generator working, and another finds a way to hook it up to the direct TV. The doctor breaks into his own hospital and gets enough medical supplies to hold them for the duration. The gun enthusiast teaches everyone how to shoot with purpose. Sounds pretty good, right?
Yeah.
The group decides against trading with other neighbors. This is her scenario, right? This is how she thinks it's going to play out. And then I kind of turn it on her. Like walking.
And I got something to add to that, too, when you're done reading this paragraph.
Okay. The group decides against trading with other neighbors to increase inventory. It was a close vote, but in the end, the added risk of unwanted attention outweighed the additional supplies it generated. Their strategy is simple. Gather as many supplies as they could in the first few days of looting, then barricade themselves in their homes and keep a very low profile. Create the illusion that they are as desperate as anyone else. Giving the rest of the hungry community a small target is a solid plan. The neighborhood leaves them alone for the most part. Confidence is high that their friendship and wits will get them through this, and they may be right. It's a good start. Pause. Go ahead. What do you got?
I just want to add one more thing. I was just thinking, with the secret stash and to ensure that everybody's on the same footing.
I really gave you an idea there, didn't I?
You really did here.
Okay.
No, because this is about human psychology, right?
Sure.
I would tell everybody, okay, and I would just offer this to the group, not as a leader, but as coming together of equal mind. Everybody takes 10% of whatever they have and deliberately hides it as a secret stash.
Oh, just tell everybody, hide.
Whatever you have, take 10% of it right now and go find a secret place. Like, we'll all close our eyes, kind of like hide and seek, so we can't see where you're hiding it kind of thing. But, that way it protects them because they might have something value. So you're not going to kill them, right? Because they have 10% of something that the group needs. Or if somebody goes crazy and, let's say, eats through the food supplies while everybody's sleeping, right? It was their turn to be on guard.
Like,
at least,
yeah.
Well, like all of us have combined 10%, right? So there's 10 people in the group. We have 10% extra that's already been set aside and hidden for just, in case of an emergency.
You've convinced me. Secret stash. I think it's a winner. I do.
A couple
I
bullets,
do
a
because
couple
why
food.
Why not?
Or if the group gets raided by a bigger group of 20 people and you only have 10, still have 10% to then survive for a little bit longer, right? Collectively, if you put it on.
Yeah,
that's all.
All right. No, I dig it. You're right. Taken, again, and this I didn't really start this in the beginning, but it's like, look, guys, everyone here has bought insurance. Now I know the insurance industry has sort of taken a hit lately, but for a lot of people, you have home insurance, you have car insurance, you have, flood insurance, you have insurance for just about every, health insurance, dental insurance, whatever you can think of. So this is one of those things where, why not? On top of prepping, why not have insurance while you're prepping? When you get into that point. Yeah, I like it. Totally good. I'm not going to go so far and say something cheesy like with friendship, anything is possible, but it does help. I suppose a better saying is people are sometimes at their best when things are at their worst. And if anyone has watched Starman, that's the line, from Starman. How I wish that were a consistent theme. There are 100 things that could go wrong with this Renaissance group that my friend came up with. There could be a hidden affair between couples. Someone may have a criminal past that could be exposed. There could be a psychological disorder that has been buried. There could be an unknown pregnancy. There are also the routine survival problems. One couple is hoarding food for the kids, accusations of not giving their share, letting someone get hurt, etc. Any situation involving drama is possible, but then again, it could happen in a single family as well. The odds say that in the short term, the group scenario has some great advantages, both in resource gathering and protection. As supplies get thin, it can get more difficult. If the bonds of friendship are strong enough, the group has a chance of staying together to the bitter end, a great testament to the human spirit. But if you really want to be multiple steps ahead of the pack, then talk about this very scenario every few months over drinks during a neighborhood party. feel the different people out and see who would be up to the task. Basically, the short version is get people drunk and talk about the end of the world. Right? Make a mental note of whom you would choose and why you would choose them. Ask them about what they would do in a major crisis and where they would go. As long as the topic doesn't have a dark, brooding tone, your run-of-the-mill neighbor will probably have an opinion on the subject. And again, you could bring it, something up from our top 10 list here, and someone would, have an opinion on it. No need to be secretive. Those not chosen will probably ignore this little block conspiracy. Even if they do remember, they will be in no position to take advantage of it. You will have the better numbers. A little trick would be the bar fight buddies scenario, which I came up with. Imagine yourself walking to a strange bar far out of town with a small group of people. Suddenly, a mild misunderstanding turns into a full-blown fight, and everyone in your party is trying to get roughed, or is going to get roughed up. Who would you want to be there with you, and why? Try not to think about who throws the best punch, but who can handle the stress without being traumatized. After the fight, who tries to take charge and who comforts whom? Look past the action. See who is the best under stress. This should help. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That conjures up a lot of things.
Yeah.
So many thoughts.
About your neighbors?
It's funny because we moved recently in the past year, and this particular block I live on, logistically, it's terrible because I lived on a farm for 4 years where I was prepping a bit. There were no neighbors within a 10-acre or 15-acre radius.
Yeah.
And at the time, I think I said to my wife, listen, if you see people coming up the driveway in that end game scenario, shoot first, take questions later. Not shoot to kill. I just mean like give a warning shot.
Sure.
Reason being is up till that time, nobody ever borrowed a couple sugar in the 3-4 years we lived there, let alone invited us over for a barbecue.
Yeah.
Now, that said, I got to throw this out there. You threw out routine survival problems. You said hoarding food and people getting hurt.
Yeah.
That is my biggest fear is people getting hurt.
Yeah.
Because of things that would then, broken bones, of course, being the worst, losing a finger or something like that, sepsis, tetanus, and so on and so forth. Here's one I think, and I never thought about this before. Safety glasses, the little $3 cheap safety glasses you can get at Harbor Freight or elsewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Now, think about this. Most people, especially if they work in an office and have technology all around them, don't have to use their hands or work with a saw or a hammer or anything like that. So something like safety glasses usually don't fall on people's top 100 list.
But it should be there. Absolutely.
But it should be in the top 10 from a safety perspective because God forbid you get a splinter or a little piece of metal shaving in your eye, you're not going to be able to run to the eye doctor. Same thing with gloves. God forbid you slice your hand wide open. So and we'll talk about that to some degree. But you're absolutely right. You're absolutely on the same page with me, which is there's a lot of little things people don't think about it. Everyone's like, oh, I gotta get a bunch of bullets and guns and whatever and they. And I don't mean to. Yeah, I was going to say, I don't mean to go off on a tangent. It's just that in hearing you read this in this way, in this manner, I don't think it's ever really been presented to us in the forefront of our mind because, again, we're used to seeing movies and TVs and depictions where there's always a running action instead of the preparatory phase. And if it's a preparatory phase, it's usually done in this sped up timeline where you see the guy like in Rambo where he's carving arrows and he's lining them up, getting ready to fight. But it's always sped up time. It's not like
the quick montage. Yeah,
quick montage. Yeah, the quick montage. And
because the slow montage and the prepping stuff, it's not good cinema. So it's always cut to we've already prepped. We've already got our stuff. And, and it's like, people's, and that's what sticks in people's minds. Like, oh yeah, I got that covered. I got like 3 cans of soup and a box of shells under my bed. I was going, really? That's your plan? So.
Yep, and you know what? If you wanted to make it funny, I mean, comedic, because like and I always see things in the sense of a movie, right?
Yeah.
You see the guy grabbing the chainsaw that he's going to then attach to his arm, like Army of Darkness or Evil Dead, something like that.
Yeah.
But you never see him like with a group of people like grab, like I said, the safety glasses and then a whole roll of condoms, and he looks into the person. He says, "You ever want to get the clap in the post-apocalypse? It's not a pretty thing."
There you go.
Excellent
point.
Protection.
Brilliant.
I'm sorry.
No, it's totally cool because that was good because we're actually segueing now into the list. And on my thing, it was called The Important Things. And I'm going to preface it with, over the years, I have poured over many different survival lists for just about every disaster known. And aside for the ones that deal with different types of terrain, they share a lot of common threads. Now, we're not going to touch different types of landscapes and what you might need for each one. You're not in the mountains or in a deep forest or walking around some high desert. You're probably in an average wood frame, 2-bedroom house with an unfinished basement at the end of a cul-de-sac. If your surroundings are more urban, then you might be in a condo or apartment building. If you're a business traveler, you might actually be in a hotel. The dynamics, can you imagine being a business traveler if this happened? Oof, that'd be bad. I'm glad I'm not doing that anymore. The dynamics are still the same. It's America, and there's a huge mishmash of resources scattered for miles around. Some of these resources will be in your residence, and many will not. There have been countless debates over the priority of the survival list. The top 10, the top 20, what resource counts more. To make it easy to read and understand, I will cover each topic, group into one of these 3 levels. Of course, number 1, priority, which you need right now. 2, secondary, quality of life items. And 3, optional tradable, which covers just about everything else, including things that aren't on my list, but could be on yours.
I like that category, by the way. I can't wait to hit that one.
With the optional but tradable?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guarantee we're not going to get to that till next week, but that's okay. We'll at least get to the part of the priority. Each item or group of items will be given a detailed explanation, and some will have examples. The hope here is to allow your mind to think of things as resources rather than items. Things that may not be of value to you may be in high demand by others.
Baby formula.
Perfect example. Yeah.
Diapers.
Yep. Each explanation, those aren't even on my list because I don't have a family. Each explanation will also cover where you can acquire the item in question. And I'm doing this all for you guys. It's because I care. I'm doing this for you. And when it might be available. Please keep in mind that in your environment, there will be many other people who will eventually want the same things you do. The difference here is that you will know, excuse me, what you want before it happens, and you will have a very good idea of where to get more before the others do. Timing is very important here. What?
I'm just laughing at what you just said.
What?
Because you care.
Because I care. Oh, that took you a while.
No, because it's almost like I'm sorry, Mark. I don't want to lose my composure on the air.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
It's like the government said, we're getting a bad rap out there. People are on to us. Alex Jones and all these guys are giving them the information too quickly. We need a better PR campaign. We got to show a kinder face. We need to show that we have a heart. Are we the new face of FEMA, Mark?
All right. Fine. I wasn't going to say this, but yes, we're actually broadcasting from 30 stories below the Denver International Airport. And I got to tell you, the commissary down here is pretty great.
I'm sorry.
It's, it's good. They have a good salad bar. The soup of the day was carrot ginger. I really enjoyed it. Cooking cannot be, overstated.
I like the little cakes that you can make out of the crushed saltine crackers and cocoa powder. Do you know what that's from, right? With the MREs.
Oh, I've done that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done that. Absolutely, I've done that. Okay. All right. So we got 2 minutes. Let's at least get through like the first 2. So of course these will be obvious, but I have to talk about. Okay. Number 1 is water. Absolutely number 1. Yes, it's obvious. Yes, it's critical. It's number 1 with a big bullet. You've heard it mentioned in movies and television and books. We're made up mostly of water, and without it, we won't last long. And that's why I'm completely going to overstate this. It's also taken for granted, and in many reported survival cases, overlooked early. Don't just skim past this. There are some things that you need to know about the most common element on the Earth's surface. Human body is basically just a large contained mass of water. All of our functions, from blood flow to digestion to neural activity, are encased in it. Water consumption is, of course, based on your weight, metabolism, and diet. Environment will also factor into some degree. The basics remain the same. You can only be away from water for about 72 hours. It's 3 days, give or take. It is the one resource that is highly recommended, look it up, not to be rationed. I know everyone will want to ration it. In all the movies they do ration it, but don't ration it. There have been many studies suggesting that drinking a normal amount and then running out is much easier on the body than cutting your drinking in half and then half again. When it comes to water, it's better to just pull the Band-Aid off quickly than to peel it off slowly. Water consumption is also affected by humidity. If you live in a really balmy environment, say Florida, you'll be breathing in water vapor as well as expelling it, so there's a little wiggle room. But in an average urban environment, water is your prime concern. Everything else comes second. The good news, even if the power goes out statewide, a lot of water stations are tied into backup generators, and some even directly to the source like a dam or power plant. These generators can keep things moving as long as the fuel holds out. The bad news, eventually, if the grid isn't repaired, the water will stop and you will have to get more. And we'll be back with more resources.
.com.
Feel it coming in the air.
Yeah.
The sonic cymbals everywhere.
The Kev Baker Show, Monday through Friday on True Frequency Radio.
Welcome back to Strange World. I'm your host, Mark Sargent, and coming to me from the drone strike room is my good buddy Jonathan. We were talking about water before the break, and we're coming into our last half hour. Time flies when you're talking about the end of the world. So when it comes to water, you got to get more, right? And so where do you get it? So I'm just going to give you guys a few ideas. So there are two paths that need to be considered. Is the water still on or has it stopped? Generally, if it's still on, that's fantastic news for you. That gives you a chance to create reserves. Fill up every plastic and glass container you can think of with water and put a lid on it. If there's no lid, put some plastic wrap over the top, maybe a rubber band. If you have containers in the garage, fill them up and label them do not drink. They can still be used to run toilets if needed. If you have two bathtubs, and some people do, if it's an older house, put a rubber stopper in one and fill it up, just like Viggo Mortensen did in the first 5 minutes of The Road. If you don't have a rubber stopper, use anything to make it watertight. Again, you can use saran wrap and something. The bathtub water can be used for various things, but I wouldn't necessarily use it for drinking or cooking unless your tub is spotless, and if you're like me, it's not. Right? So once you have filled up everything you can think of, go back and see what you left out. Cups, sports bottles, empty soda or wine bottles. If there is residue that excludes it from cooking or drinking, label it. Don't forget your washing machine. It may be a bit awkward to get at, but it can hold quite a bit of water because if it's not in drain mode, it'll hold it. Unless it's a front loader, and then that just gets weird. This is your base, your backup, and your insurance. If the tap is still running, then rotate water supplies slowly every few days. Water is life, and you now have a good supply. I'm not going to regurgitate all the other guides that want you to use the water tank in the back of your toilet or from your hot water heater. You people aren't cavemen, and you're not mechanics, so I don't expect you to do that.
And by the way, there's things that I would add to water depending on where you are and your level of dehydration and everything else.
Sure.
Salt is important. Electrolytes are important.
Oh,
Iodine is important.
Good.
Good. What else? Baking soda, like I said, if you have gout and you have other inflammation, and that's the thing too. I think what's going to happen, and I again hate to go back to zombies, but I think they're so healthy because after a few weeks of not eating crap and drinking so much coffee, I think people would just naturally start detoxing.
Nice. So it's going to turn into a warm bodies scenario.
That's why they're able to run so fast. I mean, they're like healthy and fit, and they've stripped down all the weight. Yeah. And by the way, somebody sent me a message on Facebook. They're listening, and they said, "You're so cavalier about all this. Like everything's a joke." And I said, nah. And I wrote back to him. I said, "Look, from the minute you're born, you're already dying. This is a serious issue. But if you don't laugh at it now, in hopes that it never happens, you're going to make yourself crazy or miserable. You're going to get depressed over it."
Oh yeah, no. When I did the notes for this, I was not going to go down the doom and gloom thing because there's already too much of that as it is. And no, right. It's not being cavalier. It's actually being hopeful. It's chin up, looking at the sky, type of let's go in with the attitude that we're going to come out the other side.
Yeah, and you know me, I'm not a pessimistic person. I'm a very realistic person.
No, neither am I. Realism the whole way. And no, I'm not going to sit here and go, you know me. I mean, I'm not going to go, all right, it's terrible. and you're not going to make it. It's not going to be one of those lines from the movies. Again, another movie reference. So it's like, 50 men are going in, but only 25 are coming back. I'm not going to do that. I'm strictly, this is to get you again in the right frame of mind, because if you go in with the wrong attitude, you're going to crack. You're going to lose it. And but good point. Good point.
Okay.
So. The tap's still running, which means you can be liberal with other things. You can flush your toilet as usual. You can take cold showers. If you don't take cold showers, you can fill up your other tub halfway with water, let it warm up a bit, use a washcloth. You can wash dishes, pots, and pans in the kitchen sink. Life in this arena is just a notch or two below normal until someone from your family comes back and says, "Hey, there's no water coming out of the faucet." You knew it was going to happen sooner or later. If the water was off when you got home or just stops, or more than likely the flow becomes weaker and weaker until it's just a few drips, then you're going to have to see what consumable liquids you have in the house and start planning on where to get some. Search every cupboard, every cabinet. If it's drinkable, it's useful. Bottled juice, seltzer, diet soda. It doesn't matter if it tastes good. Just find out how much you have. Chances are, if it's worth something, it's worth something. Some exceptions would be liquids that contain a large amount of salt, like spicy tomato juice or Bloody Mary mix. That's got 80% of your daily requirement of salt in it. It may taste good, but the added salt will increase the rate of dehydration.
And a good point on dehydration, by the way. Being that skin is our largest organ, just if you're going to bathe, just do like the bird bath method. Wash the important parts that have odor.
Yeah.
But like your skin and your hair, you don't want it to dry out, be stripped away of its natural oils.
Yep.
So don't even, don't go crazy with bathing techniques, or take one in the rain. Wait every couple of days and.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Whatever. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I love your suggestions, man. They're great. Alcoholic beverages have some water, and everybody knows this, but probably not enough to counteract the dehydrating effect of the alcohol itself. The only exception that you can pull off for a while is beer, because it's got a low alcohol content. A case of juice is worth more than a case of beer.
And that's a trade away item on my list, by the way. Beer, alcohol.
Yep.
Forget it.
Yep.
Vices, I don't partake, so I would trade away that stuff.
That is definitely on the trade list, which again we won't get till next week. Rationing, don't do it. Drink your normal amount of water on a daily basis. Try to find more. Keeping your body running at regular levels is very important. Also, don't eat anything if you have no water to chase it with. Your body needs water to digest food. This is biology. People remember this from school, right? And will only dehydrate you further. Where to get more? There's an entire section dedicated to looting, and that won't come until next week. So unfortunately,
all the good stuff's next week.
I'm sorry. Yeah, all the really good stuff's next week. So you're gonna have to tune in next week.
We're gonna talk more next week, right? It's gonna be we're gonna like.
Oh yeah, we're gonna bounce back a lot. Yeah, because it's a lot more interesting next week. So techniques on acquiring it as well as keeping yourself safe is covered later. For the sake of the list, the where is almost entirely centered on your location close to your home. How you get it and what you might face is later. You will start forming these questions on your own as you work your way down the items. So when it comes to water, there are numerous places, but here's the thing. The closer it is, it's the better. It's because water is heavy. Do you know, by the way, without looking it up on your machine, how heavy water is per gallon?
Yes.
You do?
Oh, you're asking me or
yeah,
you're
I'm
asking
asking
the audience?
You. Do you know?
I believe it's like 8.238 pounds per gallon or something, or 8.328 or something.
It's close enough. It's 8.35.
Thank you. Okay.
So it's almost 8.5 pounds a gallon. I wasn't going to budge you on that one.
No, because we get the 5-gallon refills. We actually get spring water in BPA free bottles, and they weigh a lot. People don't realize 5 gallons of water is a lot.
5 gallons of water is over 40 pounds, and and people say, "Well, 40 pounds is that heavy?" Oh, really? Yeah. You try carrying that for like 10 blocks. Let me know how that goes. You need a pole and carry it over your shoulder, otherwise your arm's going to fall off. So the water next door. So you can't kill your neighbors to get water yet. Find out who's not home, and by that I mean who's left with a note on their door. Search the house the same way you searched yours. Organize your supplies in the afternoon, carry them back at night. So whatever you can find water around you, within walking distance, and that's the water you want to get. Your subdivision may have like an artificial lake or pond nearby. It's probably not safe to drink, even if attempts are made to purify it. God only knows what's in there. If you want to boil it, or better yet, boil it and save off the steam, do a whole distilling thing, it may be okay. Water from a neighborhood pool is a little better. Water with chlorine isn't supposed to be consumed regularly, but you can do it. And I'm trying to find a consensus on exactly how much chlorinated water you can drink on a regular basis. It causes some digestive issues, but you can do it. Absolutely.
And not to be gross, but this is a factor depending on how desperate you are. Drinking your own urine, they say there's beneficial properties in the morning with melatonin and other things in it.
Yep.
But your kidneys can only deal with so much urea if you're not filtering it out. So I believe you can only drink it 2 or 3 times where it keeps getting reconcentrated with other impurities or things that are coming out in it.
Good point.
That's all I want to know.
No, that's good. I mentioned, because that wasn't on my list, I was not going to go down there at all.
I think of the most obscure things, but this
it's
is reality.
It's like, it's good that it's not the elephant in the room, but it's good enough. It's good you brought it up. I mentioned these not so attractive options because they're closer than the nearest strip mall, convenience store, or gas station. For higher quality consumable water, you will need to explore these other locations. The obvious choices: grocery stores, bulk food stores, pharmacies, the corner gas station, convenience stores without gas. All these places will have water you can drink. Secondary choices: restaurants, athletic clubs, office water coolers, commercial building vending machines, educational cafeterias. All these places will have water. Think about this in advance. And I know we're not going to talk about the looting thing right now, but it's just kind of put a thing in the back of your head. Alternates: collected rainwater. There's no real trick to this. Any plastic sheeting, tarp, even your gutters will work. Rainwater can be pretty clean depending on where you live. All you have to do is hope for rain. If there's concern about any contamination, it can be boiled or partially purified by adding, how many drops of bleach per gallon really varies, depending on taste. I think the minimum is like 4, but I don't think you want to go over like 12 per gallon, because then again you run into digestive issues.
And consider this too: depending on how long the power is out for, the air and rain quality and surface albedo and all that stuff is going to be cleaner now that factories are closed, planes aren't flying, and you figure the ozonated effect of the upper atmosphere charging and cleaning the water. Because like first thing in the morning when you smell dew and there's a lightning storm,
sure, it's
creating ozone. It's actually cleaning the air. So I would think rainwater would be cleaner and cleaner as the weeks go by.
You would hope so, depending on the situation. Yeah.
Well, not in the case of nuclear meltdown. And
that would be bad.
Yeah.
So changing over from water, so we're done with water. Food. Water may be life, but food is energy. Calories are, for those of you who know, taking your nutrition classes, they're literally units of heat. Food keeps your body warm. It drives your system. It gives you the strength to endure in times of stress. Unlike water, the average human body can go without food for quite some time. Even a fit person with a small amount of body fat can survive for 30 days or more on just water. Question: does this mean that fat people will live longer during the apocalypse? It's a question that comes up. People have asked me.
No, it's funny because I deliberately didn't strip down weight 2.5 years ago because I really thought the crap was going to hit the fan.
Sure.
And people laughed at me, and I said, "Listen, if you remember the first Survivor, I think it was that guy Richard is the one who won.
Yeah.
The $1 million, and he was the fattest guy on the island.
Yeah.
And it's because he had all that extra energy to go into a state of ketosis and have energy reserves and muscle.
Yeah, and that's different from like the zombie land. The first one to go are the fatties.
Right.
That whole thing. But part of that is true. Again, it depends on the situation. But to the answer to the question, will fat people live longer during the apocalypse? Unfortunately, yeah. If they have access to water, yes, because as far as I know, a fat person cannot. It's really tough for them to die of starvation. As long as they have access to water, that's the catch.
And there's other reason to have fat people in your group too, like leverage. Like fat people are great for holding a door shut when people are trying to bang it down.
That's great.
I'm speaking as a fat guy, so I can say these things.
Oh, you're not that big. I've seen.
I'm more than 1/8 of a ton. Let's just leave it at that.
Nice. However, like many things, this goes to being overweight or weight challenged. Like many things, there's a catch. For those of you are say 50 pounds or more overweight, there's a flip side to this coin. If you have a large supply of water and no food, your body will start tapping those vast fat reserves and you'll start to lose weight instead of dying. But your energy will keep dropping. to less than 20% of its current levels. You'll be colder because there's nothing in your stomach to generate heat. You'll have a constant headache because your blood sugar will be so low. And most of all, you'll be really, really hungry. Now, I know if you don't eat anything after like 3 days, your hunger thing kind of goes away and then you kind of turn into this, kind of a trance type of thing, where the hunger isn't there anymore. But
you won't get energy spikes, by the way. You won't get the same kind of like some people just eat too many carbs and sugar or coffee in the morning, let's say, as a poor diet.
Yeah.
And they should be, at least having a piece of, some kind of meat or protein with it or peanut butter. But you'll see that those that have, what do you call it, is it hypoglycemia? And
could be. Yeah.
like diabetic, that won't be as bad because your levels aren't going to go up and down from, you might have a blood sugar drop, like you said, but for the most part, you get an energy kick.
Yeah.
When you don't eat for some time or at regular intervals.
Gotcha.
I think it's after the third day that the starvation mechanism kicks out.
It's that third day.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I've done that myself when I had food poisoning. Yeah, I know exactly what it feels like, and it's not pleasant. It's kind of weird. It's kind of surreal. That being said, food needs to be gathered, counted, and estimated. Even 1,000 calories a day can keep you around for a long time. Do the math. Figure out how long you can keep going with what's in your house. Eat all the perishable foods first. This includes fruits and vegetables, anything in your deli shelf, milk, anything that will expire in the next week. Then eat everything in the freezer, assuming the power's out. Cook what you can. Use a pan in the fireplace if you have to, because once these items expire, they are useless to you. So eat and overeat, and this is the only time I'm going to say this. Just eat it all. So once you ate all the perishables, you can spread out your canned goods, the rice, the flour, popcorn, oils, condiments, anything with calories counts. And the higher, the better. Sweets, too. I could break down the food into smaller groups, and eventually it's all going to be eaten. The good news, starvation fools the palate. Up until now, eating for most Americans has come down to what am I in the mood for? There's so much cheap food in this country, it just staggers other nations. There are many tasty varieties and unlimited supply, so it's no wonder we've been blowing up like balloons for the last 30 years. Maybe this end of the world situation is a good thing. Maybe a good chunk of the United States population will make it through this tribulation because we've neglected our bodies for so long. I mean, America might come out on top. You never know. When you really get hungry, just about anything tastes good. So if you want to have a bowl of rice with a mix of mayo and ketchup, that'll work just fine. Old candy, piece of cake. No play on words there. Your body will adjust, and every meal you have will be the most vibrant flavors. You won't have to. This won't apply to foods you already hate. Try to mix fats and proteins with carbohydrates. Your body wants them. Mix the basics, especially or equally if you can. Try not to spend a week eating nothing but canned beets. Your body will not be happy with you, and really, that's just weird. Be a member of the Clean Plate Club. Eat everything out of the can. If there's some packing water, see if you can cook with it. Make sure everything is licked clean as soon as you can. Don't get caught going through the leftovers later. Food requires water to digest. If you're going to finish off the last of the bread, be prepared to have a generous amount of water. If you don't have the water, don't eat until you find some. Salty food requires even more water. Look at both your water and food supplies before you go to town. Store your food in a cool, dark place if possible. Heat tends to shorten the expiration date of anything, including canned food. I know the power's out and the only light is the sun through your living room window. You can sort them there. Just move them into the shadows when you're done. Keep them cool. Keep a list of your food. You really should keep a list of everything, but at least do this for food. This is done for two reasons. One, you can do some math in your spare time and figure out the length of how long it'll last you and your family. And two, you can see if any of the food is being consumed without your knowledge, obviously. Just keep an inventory. Put your empties in trash bags, just as you do now. No reason to change your patterns there. Keep the full bags in the garage if needed. They will be fairly light and take a while before they pile up.
I say separate things that burn well because you can use them for fire.
Excellent.
Like separate your plastics. Yeah.
That's good. I didn't even think of that. Because right, there is some paper paper packing. Rationing, almost limitless. Your energy levels will be reduced the more you ration, but you can greatly extend your time by rationing. Where to get more? Abandoned homes, grocery stores, bulk food stores, pharmacies, the corner gas station, and convenience stores without gas. Secondary choices for food include, not surprisingly, restaurants, athletic clubs, office offices, commercial building vending machines, and educational cafeterias. And alternates, the last place you should look for foods, places that you wouldn't expect, like arts and crafts stores, specialty shops that have chocolate. Any shop that you can remember that has candy at the front for the kids will work. Gift shops and novelty stores are good examples of these. The average office or cube drawer has a variety of snacks that should keep for at least a few weeks. The side note here, and then we'll break after this for just change topics until the.
Yeah, I was gonna say don't go beyond that because that's like a whole nother.
Yeah, it's a whole nother thing.
Yeah,
food manufacturing plants are a source of supplies. Will be covered under looting. What not to do or what not to loot. So
right.
So that's our first part of that.
And can I tell you one of my favorite things that I stocked up on, and I still have some.
Yeah.
Sardines and salmon. High fat content in the omegas, lots of protein. They store for like 3 to 4 years, and portable in the little cans. They stack.
Yeah.
And also as a diversionary tactic, I think I told you about this. If you're going to attract hordes of people,
Yeah.
not zombies, people,
Yeah.
you're not going to have bacon on hand, but you take a can of sardines, go start a fire in some neighbor's barbecue grill.
Yeah.
Place the can of sardines on there on the rack above. And then that wafting through the air, just like a barbecue in the summer, is going to attract a lot of curious people.
Because they'll smell food.
They'll smell food. And you set it out a good half mile from where you're at or a mile, wherever the wind is blowing, but then you can more safely cook your own stuff really quick. And
That's
then,
good. I like it. Food cooking diversion tactics.
yeah.
Totally
So
dig that.
even food that's in spoilage, it could be a can of soup, it could be tuna. It doesn't matter that it's spoiling because you're only going to cook it anyway, just to get that smell in the air.
Nice. So let's change gears. I know we don't have a good segue for this. To what's been going on in my neck of the woods as far as the flat Earth stuff. I am still working on Clue 12, but I want to thank, by the way, another guy who's on this network sometimes, Rob Skiba, who came out with that massive flat Earth in-depth analysis, which was fantastic. I mean, he ran that thing he went live for something like 4.5 hours, and he's breaking it up to chunks now, and I've been listening to that, and that's been going great. The other thing I got to mention, because we mentioned him last time in the show, was, and you know who we're going to talk about? Anthony.
Oh, Anthony. Hey.
Yeah.
We got to have him on. We got to call him and stuff. And I was going to suggest it, but I know you had a long list of things to get out in today's show. So I apologize if Anthony's listening.
No, not a long list. Not a long list. But I wanted to mention a few things. One was Anthony, the guy that initially had accused me of being a Hollywood actor named Michael Key, or being the alias to Michael Key down in Hollywood. He actually called me up and talked to you as well.
Yeah.
And said, yeah. He'd made a mistake, and he's still suspicious. He's still a little concerned about the whole Microsoft connection, and maybe they're doing something. But he wanted to let me know that I'm not a part of it, which is fantastic. He probably still won't pull down that video, but that's totally cool. And so I want, if he's listening, it's like, man, thank you very much for speaking with me and clearing that up, because you didn't have to reach out, and I'm not exactly known for calling people on that stuff. I just let them talk, but that was great. And yeah, we definitely are going to have him when we finally do our call-ins for this show. We're going to have to drag him in there, because he's an interesting guy. I totally dig him. Am I still in the air? I think I still am in the air, but I may have lost Jonathan. Okay, well, if I lost Jonathan, that's fine. We'll just keep rolling with this, so I don't have to fix the connection. However, the other thing I want to mention was the guys that are doing the serendipitousboards.net. They have been doing a fairly good job, from what I understand. I know they've been breaking off and doing their own thing, but I mentioned to Anthony that I would talk to them as well. So I don't know if I'm going to join the forums or anything, but I just wanted to get that out there. So before we end, I want to also mention that eventually I will either put this all the text you've been hearing as far as this guide, as far as what to do during the potential end of the world and really when the power goes out and stays out. I'm going to try to put this thing up online. And
I'm back.
Oh, are you? Oh, good.
I don't know what happened there.
Oh, that's okay. That's totally cool. Well, you had mentioned to me that I should put this thing this entire manual up online, and I didn't get it up for this show, but I will definitely try to do it beforehand. But for those of you who want the text for this, because it's like people are furiously writing notes on at home trying to figure out what to do. Just email me. I'm not gonna my email address is msargent23@comcast.net. It's also on the end of every one of my Flat Earth Clues videos, and it is also on the Truth Frequency website. So just all you have to do is email me. I can shoot it to you for free. It doesn't cost anything. I'm not asking for any money. Just you can send me cookies though if you really feel like you're great, because I'd love to get cookies because I feel snackish sometimes. And I'll just shoot the PDF off to you. And it's super quick, so it won't be inconvenient anyway. I may have it downloadable from an FTP site.
I was just gonna do it right now for you. I was gonna put it up on a link, and then you can link it to the video if you want, or just give it to them in email. I'll do that right now for you if you wish.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead and put it up, and I'll put it in the description of this thing.
You got it.
Of this particular show. So, other than that, what we're going to do next week is we're going to continue on with this. We got a minute 30 before we go off air. So what we'll do next week, because this thing isn't, as you can imagine, it's not even close to being done. We barely touched food and water. That's basically what we've done. And next week we're gonna get into the nitty gritty of it, and that is we'll go over all the other supplies, why they're important, tactics. All the different things that a lot of this you've thought about, and some of the stuff you probably haven't thought about, and then go over your mental state and what to expect. The big thing is what to expect from the general population. What happens to the population when this sort of thing happens, and I'll give you specific examples. And what you can do to avoid, to not be like the mob. If you have to loot, and I know that some people will be like, well, absolutely, I'm going to loot. Well, then, I'm going to tell you the best way to do it, and the pitfalls, the pros and cons. So that's what I got.
I'm going to give away some of my secrets because it is on a regional basis, so I'm not concerned.
Yeah, and yours will be a little different from mine, which is cool. Yeah, so that's the next week, and I don't even know if we can get through the rest of it next week. This may turn into a 3-week thing.
Okay,
but that's totally fine. And we've got let's see, 5, 4, 3, 2. Thank you everyone for listening to Strange World. We'll catch you next week.
Thanks, Mark.
Hey.